Al Horford worked overtime tonight, guys. Overtime. He ain't ready for retirement, man. He's working. He came to work tonight.
It's like Tom Brady shit with Al. He legit looks younger than he did a few years ago.
42 method.
Yo, this was Al Horford from Florida. Good, Al Horford. This was like what he did to be the number 3 pick before he got to the NBA. The dunk on Giannis, the baseline jumper, the fact that he made his first 4 shots. I mean, Al Horford could not have scripted a better played game for himself than what we saw tonight.
Best moment too. Giannis with his little dunk and his mug and Al just goes, okay. And when he's nodding, I'm like, you might be biting off more than you can chew there. Like, careful. I was like, easy. But wrong.
Al's the man out there
Never
tonight.
poke the old dog when he's just lying there. Never poke him.
Okay, I've got that. And don't tell me that elbow was inadvertent. It was not.
Oh no.
And honestly, I think he was lucky only to have gotten a dead ball tech there.
I'm surprised that Al didn't get something a little bit more harsh.
Because that had a purpose.
He never does that. And you know, and it was Al's way of saying, that was his scare now.
Yeah, you're not the only one that's going to bully. Yeah, exactly. He's like, I can play that way too.
Well, so. I love that because bully ball is the reason they won this. You had both Al and then Marcus Smart, those 2 plays in the post when he's like, wait a second, I'm tougher than you. I'm just going to back you down. Once he does it to Holiday and once to Allen, friggin' huge. Marcus going to the basket. And again, what's so amazing too, and Marcus did it multiple times. A couple times he just sliced through, with uncontested left-handed layups. Those 2 post-ups at the end were huge because they really needed buckets. And nobody's been able to do that. Tatum, Brown, they can't get to the basket. And Marcus is like, okay, wait a second. I'm going to do the Giannis thing. I'm just going to bully my way here against whoever you decide is guarding me right now. And it worked. And those buckets were enormous. So bully ball tactics kind of flipped on their head. This game is so amazing to me because it's almost like the Kentucky Derby. Like you didn't mention the winner until there was a few seconds left. Like the Celtics weren't winning this game. And then they were up by 10 points and the game was over.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're up 10. Yeah, it was crazy.
Like they weren't going to win. Then they're up 10. Then it was over. Like that. It just kind of happened. It was unbelievable.
All of a sudden you saw Bucks.
Oh, Sherrod, I think we lost your audio. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to say this was an example of what happens when you punch the bully in his mouth and then you realize you're as big, if not bigger, than the bully. You hit as hard, if not harder, than the bully. And that's what we saw in the fourth quarter. That is exactly what we saw. We literally saw the Bucks wilt before our very eyes in this game. Because the minute that they got hit in the mouth, the minute Tatum starts knocking down shots, the minute that Al continues his dominance, which he began from the outset, they had no response. Because they had not been hit like that before in this series. Now we're going back, even up, deuce.
This was so impressive this fourth quarter because you basically, that Jaylen Brown 5th foul, I thought was going to be the backbreaker because he was just starting to sort of get going downhill and, looked like the aggressive Jaylen Brown that you needed in this game because Tatum was kind of passive for the majority of it and they just weren't getting anything going in that third quarter. Then Brown gets hit with the 5th foul and you're like, here we go. Like, the next couple minutes here could really determine the whole series. They somehow cut it to 7 going into the fourth. And then, like John said, I mean, the lane opened up and all of a sudden, strike Rich, coming down the inside. And all of a sudden they've got the 10-point lead. So, I mean, we talked about Al. Tatum, he had a big boy fourth quarter. I mean, that's the type of quarter that, gets you in that conversation and keeps you there of the superstar players. This is right now, through 3 games, did not have the performance that you want out of your superstar. Yeah. And through quarters,
the best player for the Celtics in this series has been Al Horford. I don't even think it's even an issue. And to me, and again, I love Al, but he shouldn't be your best player. No disrespect to Al, who's playing amazingly awesome, but Tatum has to be better if they're going to close this thing out. Al has done his part. He's literally giving it's 2-2, but you really should be up 3-1 when you look at the game, that game that they lost the other night, the way Al played. You should have won that game. But again, Tatum has to be better. But give him props, as Jimmy pointed out. He stepped up when it mattered most in this game. And again, I know that wrist is still giving him problems. I know that with absolute certainty. It's a problem, and again, this game certainly makes it feel a little bit better. But keep an eye on that wrist. Wouldn't be shocked if Tatum, for example, got a cortisone shot or something like that to go play tonight. Would not be shocked at all if that happens.
Yeah. It's amazing, and both of you guys have written game stories on Deadline before. And this was a tear up all the copy and start all over sort of game, because with the exception of Al playing well, it was, by the way, the Celtics wasted a good effort by Al Horford, but you would have gone in on Tatum for, again, just not turning in a superstar performance on a night where he needed to, coming off of his Game 3 performance, and Giannis seemingly kind of dictating, and asserting his will over the Celtics, just not getting enough contributions from people. Rob kind of out of nowhere not playing in this one, which was a total shock. And I know people would have been like, dude, man up here. Like, soreness is not, you're hurt or you're injured. You can't be probable for Game 5 and not be able to play in Game 4. Like, you just got to suit up and play 7, 8, 10 minutes if you have to. Again, I know it's a surgically reconstructed knee, but like all of that stuff was going in the wrong direction for them. Jalen on the fouls, we were going to get all in on the refs again, and then boom, Al obviously saved their ass there in that fourth quarter, and that got them within striking distance. And then Tatum turned on the Jets when he absolutely had to, and that was it. And then those two Marcus buckets, but I mean, Milwaukee almost just stopped, right?
Yeah. Al Horford's 131 career playoff games before his first 30-point outing are 41 more than any other player in NBA history. Clifford Robinson, 90 games before his.
Yeah.
So 131 playoff games Al Horford has been in over his career. His first 30-plus point game tonight. And honestly, looked like a freaking boss out there.
Good point by Fuzzy here. Both games the Celtics won were games that they were missing a starter. It's just a bizarre series that's really been hard to figure. And when Sherrod, one thing I wanted to kind of piggyback on that you were saying, when you see Al going out there, whether it's embarrassing people or inspiring people, whatever it is, it really is amazing to me that this team played the way that they played in the first part of the season with guys like Al and Marcus here to clearly lead by example. And to have Al, I don't think this was I think he snapped them out of it a little bit, which is like, this guy's going balls out here. But yeah, it just made me think, like, I don't know how this team ever got so far off track with the type of like hard-nosed veteran leaders that they have, lead by example sort of guys. And then just Al's just like, everyone said, just fountain of youth sort of stuff here. It's not just having a 30-point game and incredibly efficient shooting and the 3-point shot looking better and being more confident in it and going 11 for 14 the field. It's this spryness, like when he had that dunk on Giannis, I think Van Gundy said, like, this isn't stuff we've seen from him ever.
Right.
You just don't see him kind of do that sort of stuff. And of course he's dunked before and this and that, but it's like, he just looks, he looks incredible. I'm just really awestruck by it.
He made a shot in the second half, and after he made it, I'm watching him go back up the court, and he's just trotting along, bouncing up and down. I'm like, wait a minute, Al's like happy. He looks like Al from Florida.
He's amazing. If it's possible, his eyes are even more beautiful.
Yeah,
that's impossible, John. That's impossible.
They're even more lustrous.
You can't stare at him, or you'll get lost.
He's like the anti-Medusa with those eyes.
Oh my god.
No, you know what?
I ask Al questions like this.
But he looks fit. He looks right. Don't look right at him, or else you'll just be like,
I forgot my question.
I'm always nervous when Bobby interviews him in person. I'm like, is he just gonna lose himself in his eyes?
Hey, Al, you played really well today.
I was going to ask you something, but
yeah.
No, he was great. He was so good. And just, again, giving him everything. I mean, the scoring, shots, rebound, his defense. This was the total package.
Sherrod, he's physically must be feeling great, and I know over the years he's battled some, lower body injuries and such. But you don't see or hear anything like that. His confidence must be at an all-time high right now. I mean, the way he's carrying himself out there in the court, just listen to him talk after the games. Like, he's in a good space, definitely. And I think he's leading a lot more by example than really anyone's ever maybe given him credit for. I think we all know that he does, but I think maybe this year, maybe more than ever, he's really embraced that role. And I think the guys gravitate towards, what he's doing out there and what he's able to give them off the court too. So, I just think that like he's just adding so much to them right now.
He is, and he's become a matchup problem for Milwaukee. You better believe when they go back and look at the film, they're going to try to minimize his impact. And if you're Jason Tatum, that could be a good thing. If you're Jaylen Brown, that could be a good thing because now all of a sudden you're one big who can stretch the floor. Now all of a sudden he becomes a bigger priority for them to try to galvanize. Because again, Al, most of the shots he took were open. Most of the shots he took were just literally taking what the defense was giving him. And if you're Milwaukee and you try to take some of that away, that's going to leave Tatum and Brown and Marcus Smart available to do more things.
Yeah, with everything. I know Milwaukee does what they do, and they're trying to get you to shoot threes, and the Celtics fell into that trap in the first 3 games, and they're just shooting more threes than twos. And, obviously the game that they win is the game where they knock down a bunch of them. But, again, you got to take advantage of what they're giving you, whether it's certain matchups or the drop coverage, which is going to allow you to to take those little pull-ups or those floaters or whatever it is there. They just got to figure out a way to kind of, exploit it a little bit better. And that's what I'm wondering if maybe there was a little bit more of that tonight. And I want to look a little deeper into some of the numbers to see where some of the stuff came from. But the whole thing I'm just floored by. This was a dead ass team. When they were down 7 in the third quarter, I was like, I'm not seeing where this is going to come from here. And they were so flat and so out of it. And then Al just woke them up. And then they just went from there. It's just, I'm trying to think of a game like this where, it was this bad and then boom, just like that. And they got to give all the props to Al. He brought him back from the dead.
You got to give some to Tatum too.
He did, but Al brought him back from the dead. Tatum
kicked the coffin. Tatum kicked the coffin doors open, but they were 6 feet. They were 5.5 feet deep before Al just started climbing and pulling him out of the grave.
Al was doing it before the fourth quarter too. He was doing everything he could to keep these guys in it, and so you got to give him credit for that. I just thought that we were all screaming at our TVs, and I'm sure people were tweeting, "Need Tatum now! Need Tatum now! Any minute now!" You got to get a little bit more aggressive and try to take over in some capacity. And I think that he did that in the fourth quarter. Now, I'm not saying Al obviously didn't. Al had the biggest fourth quarter of them all, but Tatum was right behind him, and those were the two guys. Like you mentioned, John Smart had a couple of cameos towards the end there, but it was a 2-man game in that fourth quarter, and they just did what they had to do. So I got to give. We've talked about Tatum bordering on this line of superstardom and whatnot, and this is the type of performance that keeps you in that conversation. Other than just sort of. If he continued on in that same way the first half went, then we're criticizing him like crazy tonight. He's the story of the game.
Sherrod said it in game 3. Tatum sucked ass all game, and all you needed was for him to be Jason Tatum for 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever.
And 5 Tatum, give me 5 minutes, and we got it.
And that's it, and they would have had game 3. He did it tonight. That was the difference, Yeah.
I think, John, to your point, I think the way this team is built, you can win a lot of games with him being great for 5 minutes.
Right.
And if he's
because you're going to make life so hard on the other team, it's going to be hard for them to separate. Even when you're doing everything wrong and your offense is a mess and you can't get into any flow and your stars are slumping, you're always in the game as long as you're playing defense. And again, he may stressed it early on. If we do this, we're good, man. Move the ball, play defense. We're going to be in every single game, if not dominate these games when we execute. Let's bring in Bobby Manning for the Daniel Tice report from Milwaukee here. Bobby,
don't touch anything.
What's going on?
Hands off my stream, pal. What's going on? I know you were listening to some of the interviews. What's the vibe down there?
Yeah, we'll get to the Tice stuff at the end, but we got to get Al Horford's moment resonate for at least
Show it to me. Show it to me, Bobby. Is it under there?
Yeah, what do you got?
It's hanging up back home. And it's gonna hang out.
42.
It's gonna hang up time, and this is.
It's gonna be a case. It's gonna be a case when Bobby gets back. Watch.
This is a beautiful moment. I mean, for his career. I mean, come on.
John, where's the music? John, where's the music? Where's the music?
He comes back, doubted, pretty eliminated to the OKC Philadelphia stance, just trying to find his place here again. But it seemed like he had bigger visions on how he wanted to go, and he's allowed that to happen through preparation, through sustaining, through best shape of his life this year. And he was obviously the key to the last series, has been the key to this series to this point, defensively in the first 2 games and now offensively these last 2. And you just think of this moment. They were down 10 with 2 minutes left to go in the third. From that point on, they outscored the Bucks by 20. Horford's running the ball into the half court, pulling up, taking all the shots that are available, and continuing to get stops on the other end. He's been the best. This series features Giannis, Holiday, Tatum, and Horford has been the best player. And think of that. And this is a moment that, depending on how this shakes out, is going to be in Celtics lore. I mean, he stole this game. He stole this game. He stole the series from the Bucks here. The Bucks were taking a 3-1 lead tonight, and he went out there and stole it. It's just legendary stuff from a player who I don't think most people looked at as legendary coming to Boston. Really good all-star level player. Some of the stuff that he's accomplished with a franchise that's had a lot of great players now, changing the culture, having phenomenal playoff runs now 3 times in his career. This one becoming the 3rd. It's amazing. I mean, this guy, probably my favorite Celtic ever, and I think endeared himself to a lot of Celtics fans around the world tonight.
Oh man,
there's no doubt that Al has played
a great.
There is a lot. I'm just gonna jump on one point. Al has been phenomenal, and he deserves all the credit, all the praise, all the adulation that he's getting. But Bobby, there's no way in hell that he's the best player in the series. He's the best Celtic.
He's been the best player in the series. I'm not saying he is the best player.
Really?
What's the Greek guy's name again?
Yeah,
he held Giannis to, what was it, 8 of 18 right? Through the first 2 games? And I still think the numbers probably stand up pretty strong after this game. We'll have to get them when they update. But when he's guarded Giannis, no one's giving him a harder time.
I mean, sure, Giannis is the best player in the series, but when Al
I know he's the best player, but for these 4 games, who's been the best?
Yeah, when Al bodied him there with that dunk and then punched him in the face, at least symbolically, that was obviously a massive moment. And possibly series turning. I know, Bobby, you're, there's a little hyperbole here with Celtics lore and X, Y, and Z. It's game 4 of a second-round series.
I'm saying depending on how this shakes out.
It's a big game. What I will say is that dunk, when you're going to look back at, like, the glove like Jason Varitek hitting A-Rod in the face with his glove is the moment that turned the Red Sox season around. You might look at these playoffs and that dunk on Giannis as
that's going to be on a YouTube highlight reel.
Depending on how deep the Celtics go, that's a real turning point moment. That
a lesson in modesty here.
Swinging this game and possibly swinging the series. Because while we weren't sure what was going to happen in this game, I think a lot of us agreed, and a lot of people I talked to agreed. The winner of this game feels like they would have the leg up on the series. Certainly Milwaukee up 3-1 would be commanding, but the Celtics winning this game and going back home and earning home court back would really feel like they'd be in good position here. And you have to feel a lot better about, obviously, their chances in the series after coming in here and taking that game. And that moment's going to be the one where we're like, that was it. That's what turned it. That's what turned the entire game, and that's what turned the series.
And if you're the Celtics, you got to be feeling like, you know what? We basically got our asses kicked for 3-ish quarters, and getting down by double digits in the first quarter, being down fairly large in the third, and we won. I mean, we didn't just win. We went on by double digits in the fourth quarter after getting our ass kicked for 3+ quarters. If you're Boston, you're going home feeling not only good about your chances of winning the series, but of getting to the NBA Finals. I mean, you're taking these. This is the team that was the last team standing a year ago. There is a different kind of confidence that you build within yourself when you can take the champ out. regardless of whether they're as good as they were the year before, it doesn't matter. They are the ones that went into the season with the crown, and you just snatched it from them. And that is invaluable when you're trying to do what the Celtics are trying to do, which is do the improbable, which is bring home Banner 18.
And he was mad, Al, in that presser after the last game. You talk about the lost opportunity of Game 3. Feeling like the Celtics could have possibly come out of here up 3-1 if, as you said, Shrod, Tatum made a few plays and they were able to seal that out. He came out here intense, and you talk about that dunk, John. Just a moment, and you saw him in the third quarter, too, shaking his head. That intensity, Al's such a calm guy that when he shows that level of intensity, you know it has an impact. And the way they blew them away from that point on, you can tell it had an impact on Tatum. You can tell it had an impact on the way they guarded. Everything stemmed from Al here in this game. Credit to Udoka, who noticed the way the Bucks were guarding him, gave the Celtics an opportunity to swing the ball his way a lot more. He told Horford to be extra aggressive considering how the Bucks were guarding him. And it's going to continue to be there. Now, in terms of the consequences of this, like I said, John, they have to seal it out. They have to go on to win a championship for that to be the level of impact that this game has historically from Al. But they set themselves up well here to do it with 2 games left in Boston.
Oh, what a game, fellas! What a game!
Yeah, what's your take? You go in any direction you want. We've talked about a ton.
Well, I'm gonna go in this direction because I just had a few minutes with Tito Horford, man. As you can imagine, he's taking in this performance up close and personal with Al Horford, man. And I love how what Al said in the post game conference pretty much was identical to what he just told me, which was it wasn't exactly what Giannis said after he dunked over Giannis, because he couldn't make out exactly what he said, but it was more of a demeanor and a look. And from that point forward, they flipped the switch. I mean, the switch was already flipped.
How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. And Papa Horford out here, he's about to turn around if he hears me. He saw that look in his eye. He was like, oh, here we go. Look out. And heading into this one, he did drop the line. Whoever wins this is going to win the series. So he's confident that this thing is over. He can't wait to head back. For these guys to head back to Boston and see how this whole thing plays out. But, man, what a performance from Al, man.
I'll throw it up there, Josue. I've got that soundbite. Yeah, I know Al just talked a little bit ago. Here's that soundbite we were talking about. Al Horford talking about Giannis's dunk on him and that look that he gave him. Here you go.
Oh, man.
It's just one of those plays that I got the pass. He closed out. I've been shooting that a lot, and, I just figured that I just drive it, and I drove, took it in. Big play, obviously, very emotional, and I think it really, for our group, I think it really, got us going even more at that point.
That was the one on the dunk, not on the play itself, but that's talking about that play, which we said was a huge turning point play. On that one where he obviously got the tech following up on that. But the other comment that you were talking about again was he jumped in there and he when he just didn't like the Al thing. I think I have that clip as well. So let me see if I can find it. I'll play that too.
Yeah, he earned that tech.
Watch, I'm going to end up playing the same exact bite, and you guys are going to be like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, I don't really know what he said to me, but the way he was looking at me and the way that he was going about it really didn't sit well with me. And at that point, I think just something switched with me.
Something switched. And then didn't sit well with me.
I love it.
Don't mess with the man.
Listen,
okay?
It's not even fighting words. It's a look. He didn't sit well with me.
When he said it didn't sit well with me,
funny.
I'm like, oh, shit, he's about to whip my ass. It didn't sit well with me. Buzzword, I'm about to whip your ass. That's – love that from Al. Love that.
Love it.
That is such an OG way of just –
for real.
Keeping it above board. But you all know what I'm saying. It didn't sit well with me. I'm about to whip his – yes.
And I followed it up. Sherrod,
okay.
You
number
sort of
34.
gave him the head nod. You sort of gave him the okay. He goes, exactly. Exactly. Like, you got that one, but
I know who you are. Noted.
That's technical foul, but we're gonna finish this thing out now. Like, I'm
that was that was a crap technical foul call too. But anyway,
oh, it's worth it. You take.
No, I'm saying on Giannis. Give me a break. But
yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
That's fine. Great. Like I said, turning point. Anything else? Obviously, Al was huge today. But you were in on some of the interviews. Were you listening to the Bucks at all?
I did not. No, I stayed with the Celtics side. There were guys were coming in and out. As soon as I was heading out, Tatum was coming down the hallway, so Bobby was able to
Would Smart have anything to say?
Yeah, Smart was actually just singing Al Horford's praises, just saying, "Look, I've never had a teammate like this before. This is Al. Like, he was huge. I think he said it like 4 times. I don't know if it was huge or if it was like big. That's what it was. It was like, man, Al was big for us. Like, I cannot say that enough. Like, we don't win this game without him, who he's been all year long. And it was sort of the same thing that we heard from Ime from the very beginning when he started his post game presser, where it was just like, man, Al's been doing this all year long. Like when his voice in the locker room and timeouts and how he's able to galvanize this team, this unit. I mean, that dunks that. There was nothing to be said, and I asked Al too. I said, did you say something after that in the huddle? Or the guy said there was nothing to be said. Like, everyone knew what time it was. And you look at the end of that fourth quarter for the Celtics to build a 10-point lead off of that. Huge win, big time.
That's what we were talking about, Josue, is like none of us could fathom that this game went from like the Celtics looking like they were definitely going to lose to they were up 10. And it just happened, and again, Al gets a ton of that. Jimmy was talking Tatum, a couple really big buckets from Smart there, just enough, and that's, again, just talking about the difference between, this Celtics team versus old Celtics teams. Like, and we're talking about last year's team, the beginning of this season is like, these are games the Celtics would be on the other side of. They do enough to have a lead. They can't put a team away, and then they just have a game taken from them. Celtics just took this game from Milwaukee. This has to feel awful if you're the Bucks.